Hello everyone, welcome to the next session on SAP Web ID and Launchpad training. In the last class, we discussed about how to synchronize your project with Web IDE by two options. Option one, directly synchronizing the project from the gateway system, and option two, downloading the project first from the gateway system, uploading it manually into the Web IDE, and then running it with the Launchpad launch configuration. We also talked about different artifacts which are there as part of your Fiori app, like neoapp.json, sandbox.js, sandbox configuration, manifest.json, component.js, and the structure of the Fiori applications which are of old types using old scaffolding templates. We also saw creating a transaction code for SAP Fiori Launchpad for end users. Towards the end of the session, we were discussing about different options for modifying standard application and extensibility concept, just an introduction we have started with. So when it comes to extensibility, it's a concept wherein users or the developers can really adapt or change the standard Fiori apps as per their own company requirement. There are multiple options like sap.ui.view extension, which provides the custom view content at a specified point where you can hook in your own view content in form of a fragment. Option number two was view replacements, completely replacing the view functionality with your own view. Of course, we are talking all as XML views. Third option was view modification, wherein you would like to tweak little bit of the properties of existing UI elements, which is called UI view modifications. We will see this. And then finally, the controller extension, which allows you to enhance or replace the controller of existing standard application with your own custom defined controller, as well as you can also override the functionality of methods which are there in standard controller. We talked about how to look at the name of the BSP application for a given Fiori app. And now in today's session, we will go ahead and try to talk about enhancing first the OData service. So as we all know, our standard architecture where we have typically a front-end server, a back-end server, and a Fiori application. So let me quickly go back to the PPT where we have this architecture already presented. So we have a front-end server, we have a back-end server. In back-end system, we have our business data as well as definition of service project. And then we expose from our front-end server a gateway service using our gateway server. And this gateway service is now being consumed by Fiori app, which is also deployed in the front-end server. So what we now have to do is, if at all you have a custom requirement, probably you also would like to enhance existing standard OData service which SAP has provided. So how can you really do that? We will talk about that, and slowly we will go to the above layer, which is nothing but the UI layer, and see these UI enhancements using this extensibility concept. An end-to-end demo we will look at for a complete extensibility scenario where we will enhance the bottom line, and bottom line here is in your backend system. So this is your backend system. You have a SEGW transaction for service gateway builder. We will be loading the standard OData service project, which is supplying the data to standard SAP Fiori apps. So on the front end system, you have SAP Fiori application deployed. And this Fiori application is talking to an OData service, which is exposed, of course, in the front end itself. So you have an OData service here, which is defined. And this OData service is connecting through a system alias to the corresponding service builder project. That's the setup we have. Yeah. Now, if you really need an enhancements to be done, you should always start from bottom. Enhance your OData service in order to enable more data fields. Okay, so we'll take an example in context of this track purchase order Fiori application. Enhancing first the OData service to include more data to it, more fields to it. This is a practical typical scenario where, let's imagine you have a standard OData service, you have a standard Fiori app, and now the client or the business really want you to enhance this Fiori application showing custom data fields, which are there in some custom table or maybe part of a standard database table but not exposed by OData service. So first you need to enhance your OData service, and then you need to enhance your UI to display the data exposed by OData service. So that should be always the approach going forward whenever you talk about extensibility. If it is just about hiding, displaying, hiding or enabling, disabling of UI elements, you can still do it without any OData service change. So I'm considering a typical real-time scenario where you would need a change in OData as well and UI also. That's the kind of scenario which is the complex one I'm considering here, where we start always from changing in OData service. So again, the golden rule of this game, you are not allowed to change anything standard. Okay, this is the golden rule you all should remember. So golden rule, or you can call it our Funda Fox. So golden rule of this game is never allowed to change standard SAP artifacts, be the UI project provided by SAP or be the service project provided by SAP. You cannot really touch this. If you need to do enhancements as per your requirement, you will make a copy, or I would say, to be very precise, not a copy, but I would say you make an inheritance. You make an inheritance from standard and create a custom implementation, which is nothing but Z or Y implementation. And in this custom implementation, you are going to make changes. You should never touch standard. Okay, this is the golden rule of the game. So let's get started with our example here for our track PO application. So you can see we have already synchronized it over here in Web IDE. I quickly right click on this and try to run this in my local sandbox, local Fiori sandbox, and just see what is the service name it is actually making a call to. So it's pretty simple to explore which service it is really calling. So let's come here. It looks like there's some problem. Let me just quickly again click on play button to get this started. It's not really starting, so I will quickly restart my Orion server. This is a typical problem what we face in local Web IDE. I deleted this, and let me quickly go back and enhance the local one. Okay, so I go back to C drive, my Web IDE, and quickly just run this Orion server. Okay, so you can see it is starting Orion server, and I will now go back and quickly just try once again. And I will quickly connect back. Let it restart my Web IDE, and then I will quickly run and show you the response of the app. So one way to find out, which is the most easiest way to find out the right OData service, is right click here, say run as my local sandbox, just press F12 and see the network tab, what calls it's really making to the backend. Yeah, you can see what are all the calls it's really making to the backend, and wait for a call which you feel it's responsible for loading the data from the backend system. Yeah, of course it's going to make a call to the backend and going to ask you the username and password to load the data from the backend. Yeah, so you can see it's loading everything, and now it's asking me the credentials. I just enter the credentials, and you can see it's calling a couple of services, different views, controllers, everything, all the different artifacts are getting loaded. And if you really look at, you can see it's loading this PO lists entity set, which is there in your OData service. So you can here see the OData service name, which is SRA020 PO tracking underscore SRV. So whenever you create an OData project, a service name will be automatically assigned to that OData project. So the service name is always having a postfix as underscore SRV, which means your actual OData project name is this. So you remove SRV from the end, and whatever remains becomes your service project name. Yeah, that becomes your service project name. So you can see this is the OData service it's calling. This is one way to find it out. You can also double click here and look at the response of the PO list entity set, what data it is returning. So you can see it's returning me PO number as let's only look at the last digits 17319. And if you can come back to your app, you can really see 17319 is the first record which is being displayed. So this master section and the details of this top object header is being loaded by this PO list entity set. Okay, so this is the entity set which it is using. Now this is option number one, which I find it easy because I'm a Fiori developer and I can easily look at my calls going to the backend and find out the right service name. Now there's also the other easier way. So if you have your project already synchronized in your web IDE, you can expand it. And now since you see there's no manifest file here, which means it's an old style project. So typically we saw the latest style projects, you all have manifest.json file, and you can just get into this manifest.json file and find the right name of the service. Yeah, so this is one way. But since I don't find a manifest.json file in this particular project, it's because it's an old style project. I always look forward for something called configuration.js, and you can see it here, configuration.js. So here in this configuration.js, you can really find the name of the OData service from here. This is option number two. You can really look at and try to find out which OData service your project is connecting to. Yeah, option number two. So option number one, look at the network tab, all the calls going to the backend. With that you find option number two, you can come to the configuration.js file, or if it's a new style project, you will find manifest.json. There you can go and look at the name of the OData service it's really making a call to. Option number three, which is also a good option indeed, we talked about it in the past. Go to the Fiori apps library, and here you can just really get into and check which is the OData service corresponding to standard SAP Fiori apps. So if I just go inside and just say track purchase order here, and you can just come to the information, and then you look at the configuration. So here you will find the name of the OData service which this standard project is really talking to. You can see the version number is 1. So that's the OData service it's talking to, and this is the backend role which is needed to access the data from this OData service. Yeah, out of the box this has been given by SAP. So you can of course find this in your backend system, but this whole service name you can find it in the front-end system, because that's the place from where it's been exposed. So let's look at this service first. So if I come here to my SAP Fiori front-end system, I should be able to find an entry for that service name. So let me just connect to my front-end system and then go to main service transaction, and here I can just say filter and search for this service name, put it in external service name always, okay, and just say okay, and you can find this is the OData service which it's using. Yeah, it's using this OData service. So ZSRA020 PO tracking SRV, and the external service name which has been given in the Fiori app is this. Okay, now you can also just test it locally. Go to gateway client, and you can give your entity name. So in our case it was PO lists, so I can just say PO lists question mark dollar format equals to JSON. We all know about gateway client. um, I'm not sure why it's not giving results, but that's how you can really check it. Maybe just come here, and yeah, I think I do missed a couple of things from here. Because of that, it's not giving me the right results. So let me just copy this as it is, including the entity set name. Yeah, press enter, and yes, you can see it's really giving me the result same as what I'm getting in the browser. Yeah, so that's how you can check your OData service. Now we should find the corresponding project in the backend. So now if you really look at this, it's giving you the list of purchase orders, which means there will be a database table where all the purchase orders are stored in the in the business application. So we all know where the data comes from. It comes from the backend system. So can anybody tell me which is the transaction code to look at purchase orders in the system? Which is the transaction code to look at purchase orders in the system? ME23. Very good. So let's go to the backend system, and we should be able to find this purchase order in the backend ERP system. So I connect to backend system and just say Fiori server, my credentials, and just gonna look at this this particular record in purchase order ME23N, and I'm just gonna display this purchase order over here. So whatever you are actually seeing on the screen into the OData format, it's coming from the backend system. Yeah. So let me just open up the purchase order. I can just click on search and just give this purchase order number. Oops, I think I really got to open this. How can I really open this other purchase order? And now give this number here, what we are seeing over there, and purchase order other document. And you can see this is the purchase order, guys. What you really see, it has one material with M-06, and if you come on the Fiori app, you can see there's only one material here, M-06. So this is the data which exists into the backend system, which is then being exported out of the backend system through creating a service project, defining all the entity sets, and then finally registering that service in the front end system, so that from the system alias through a secure RFC connection, it talks to the backend. It hits the service implementation, your DPC extension class. From there, it talks to the PO purchase order API layer. That API layer goes to the database layer and pulls in all the purchase order information, and then supplies it to the Fiori app. Yeah, so that's the end-to-end picture what we can really see. So anybody, what is the database table name for purchase order? Anybody? What is the database table name for looking at purchase order? Perfect answer. EKKO is the database table name for looking at purchase order. So if I just come to EKKO, that's the header table, and EKPO is the line items table for purchase order. So EKKO is the header table for purchase orders. So here we can also look at the purchase order number, which we really saw it in the Fiori app. So let's enter the purchase order number here and say execute. So we should be able to see this purchase order entry over here as well. Yeah. So now if you really look at it, you know, your database table has around 144 columns. Yeah. Your database table has 144 columns, but your OData service, what has been built, is not really exposing all 144 columns. Is it? Yeah. You can see, which means all the data of your purchase order is not being exposed. It's not really being exposed from your OData service. Now, then there is a practical need. So let's imagine you're working with a client, with a business, and they say, I want payment terms for purchase order to be displayed in the Fiori app. Yeah, that could be a very valid requirement. So let me note down the requirement here. So you're working with track purchase order app. So you have already enabled the track PO Fiori app by on Launchpad, by creating the role, adding all the groups, catalogs, everything into it properly. Yeah, everything we have done end to end already with the track purchase order application in the Launchpad. Now the challenge for us is this particular application is pretty standard, and it only shows you the data which comes out of the box with the standard Fiori app. So but the client really needs the payment terms also to be displayed somewhere here for purchase order, and we really don't have that information available, right? So we really don't have that information somewhere available. Neither the information is exposed by your OData service. It's not part of your OData service. So in such cases, you will go purely with custom implementation. So we've enabled the TrackPO app, and now on that app, there is no field, no data displayed for payment terms. Okay, so but your client really need to display this information on the screen. So how will you really do it? So step number one, since this payment term information is not part of OData service, okay, it's not part of OData service, we need to first enhance the OData service. We need to first enhance the OData service, guys. That is the step number one. And after that, we need to probably enhance our Fiori app to display that particular field, which is exposed by the new OData service, which you're going to write in a short while onto the Fiori app. So hope you all understood the requirement here. So we'll see an end-to-end scenario, enhancing our OData service first. Uh, so you have a standard OData service and now you really need to enhance it. And then you got to connect this custom OData service with your Fiori application, and then it should talk to your custom OData service. Everything should be loaded. And of course, for making the standard features work, it's also important that you don't disrupt anything in standard service. So that's what also is our motive. So because the application is still standard, you're just doing minor modifications to it. So it has a contract with the OData service already, and by doing some changes, you should not breach that contract. Yeah. So that is what exactly we need to also make sure. So let's get started. First, we already found out the OData service name. So if I just go back here, you can see this is the OData service name, and you can see the external service name is this, and you can go to service implementation, and here you can see all the information about this OData service as well as the name of the DPC extension class. Yeah. So, but as we all know, there is a service project behind it, behind the OData service, which always has the name as this part. So you remove the underscore SRV, and this is the part which is denoted by the project name, service project name. So I'll copy the service project name, and I will really go to the backend system, which is our EP7 system. You can see here, and now I go to SEGW transaction and open this service project up here. Yeah. So I just go for open and select this service project name and say execute. Okay, it's already open, so of course we can just look at it. So let's look at this service project here. It's the name of this is SRA 020. What was the name? It's SRA 020 PO tracking. So let's see the service project name, SRA 020 PO tracking. I got there are a lot of them, so just got to find it. Little tedious. Yes, here it is. You can see SRA 020 PO tracking. This is the standard OData project for the OData service, and we already saw that there was an entity set name called PO lists, which was giving me the list of purchase orders. Yeah, so here it is. This is the entity type, and this is the entity set here, PO lists. So we all are by default, I am assuming that you all know what is an entity, what is an entity set, association, and stuff like that about OData, because we already covered all of this stuff in our first course. So now it's time to create an enhancement for this OData service. So pretty simple. So whatever is there, we need that plus additionally our own functionality. Okay. So let's create a new project. And typically the naming convention should be starting with Z and the same name of the project what you already have. So ZSRA 020 PO tracking will be the name of my project, and I say enhance standard PO OData service, and I just save this in the local object, and you can see the Z implementation got really created. And now there's an option to inherit from the standard project. So there is a standard project which already exists. We got to replicate that as it is here. But after replication, we got to modify it based on our need. So right click here on the data model and say import. Okay, choose import, and then choose redefine and choose option called OData service. So what I'm saying is redefine this project by making another project as its parent project. So everything what is there in the parent gets inherited to this project, and then I can make the changes on top of it based on my need. So just choose this option, OData gateway. So redefine OData gateway service, and now enter your technical service name, which was already we found out from the Fiori app or um, from the app repository or from the network call. Just paste it. Underscore SRV has to be there, guys. So you can also do a star and do an FO. Ramesh, can you please mute your line? Ramesh, can you please mute your line? Not sure. Ramesh, can you please mute your line? There is some problem with the voice. Okay. So now you can see here, we have already found this SRV. Double click on this and you can see it has also picked up the version, and I just say next. And now in the next, it will ask me which are all the entity sets or the things you really want to import in this. I would say everything, whatever is there, let me bring in over here as well. Yeah. And then say finish. And what happens is it has brought in everything whatever is there in the parent project. So you can see it has got all the entity types, entity relationships, association, everything whatever was there in the parent project, everything got imported here. It just made a copy into a Z transaction. Okay, now if you select this and say generate, so that all the runtime artifacts gets created like your DPC and MPC classes, and just save them. So all your DPC and MPC classes are also created for this Z project. So now if we really look at what we have done here behind the scenes, SAP has created these DPC MPC classes by inheriting the classes which are standard. So if I just show you the DPC class which is created for this project in SE24, so let me go to SE24 and say Z CL underscore the project name underscore DPC extension. Okay, I'm not sure why am I not able to see that. I think, yeah, this is the right name. So if you really look at this DPC class, what it actually did is behind the scenes, it has inherited from the DPC class of the same project. That's what it is doing. And then if you just go on top, you will see the parent class for this is the standard class which SAP has delivered for the project. So that's how you all the functionality which is there in standard automatically gets inherited to your class automatically. So even though you use this service as it is without really making the change and connect it to your Fiori app will still work. Okay. So you have created a Z implementation of the service, and now you can attach it to your Fiori app as it is. Your Fiori app will still work with your Z project. So let's do that. We just created a replica, just created an inheritance, and it has created the DPC MPC where it's a Z implementation now. It's a Z project. It's a Z implementation, Z class where you can write your own code. But let's not touch it right now. Just integrate the Z service now with our Fiori app. Okay, what we have today. The Fiori app extension, of course, what we created. So with that, so I have a Z project created. If you remember yesterday, we created the extension project here. Oh, we did not create, is it? Yes, we created it. ZMMPR PUORD TPO. We created this. So in this, if you really look at, we were running it and it was running absolutely fine, just like the standard project. And then we talked about enhancements. So now the first enhancement which I'll do is connect this Z project with my Z service. That's a very important step. So that I can still make sure that whatever I have done in the service side will still fit properly. Okay, this should be your first step, just to make sure that pieces will fit together first time. If you right away start changing your DPC class, which is generated just now, Z class, and then later on you connect it, you will never know, was it a problem in generation or was it a problem because of your code. So it's always a good practice, the moment you generate your Z implementation, register it with the front end, and then immediately connect it with your project and check if it is still working. Okay, so let's do that. We can come back here to the front end system. So we will now register this Z project into our front end system. So if I just show you once again, this is our project which we created, and let's try to register this with the front end project. So by default, there is a service which we would have created called ZSRA020 PO tracking underscore SRV. Okay. So let's register that with our front end now. So we come here, say add service, and just give the external service name as our project name underscore SRV. Okay. Press enter. And of course, you got to give the system alias. I want to connect to my backend with EP6, EHP6, and say get service. You can see you have got your new service to be registered. So this is the Z implementation which you have. And now I just registered this service, say add service to services. Okay. Now metadata is not loaded in backend EHP properly. Is that okay? There is some problem which is coming in this. I'm not sure what is that, but let me just try one more time. Or maybe what I'll do is I'll change the project name, guys, in the backend. Maybe there's some problem because of that is causing this issue. Or let's look at the PO list entity set, what it is saying. So it has these many properties. So it looks okay. I mean, I don't see really a problem here. What is the message it's giving? Let me check, guys. What's the message it's really giving? So if I can come here, say add service, metadata not loaded. See this in the EHP system properly Z term of data object. This has no type assigned. There is some problem. Maybe what I will quickly do is recreate this inheritance with some other name. Okay, maybe this is a problem. I just delete this and recreate another project just by putting Z actual project name and 1 at the end. Okay, so demo for Z implementation, and click on local object. You can see it's created. Right click and say uh, data model, redefine from the OData service, and just put the service name SRA this thing underscore SRV. You can do an FO and it picks up the version as well, and just say next. Select everything and just generate. We will also generate quickly the runtime artifacts for this. So let's select it and say generate runtime artifacts. So this is my Z implementation which I did. Now I will register this in the gateway system. So my service project is created, and now I will have to register this in the front end. So let's go back to front end and just put the name of the project underscore SRV. Press enter. You can see it's coming here. Demo for Z implementation. Select it and say add selected service. So now it's adding the service. You can see it's giving me the pop-up, and it's adding the service now to the gateway front-end system. So you can see it's loaded, and the metadata is also loaded successfully. So let's go back and quickly try to run that. So maybe we'll filter it. The one which we just now added, it's underscore SRV. Press enter. You can see here it is. Let's go ahead and test it in the browser. So it's very simple. Call the browser to load the service, and you can see it's loading in the browser to open the metadata, sorry, the service entity set. So it has exact replica of the standard service, guys. Though it's a Z implementation, it's exact replica of standard. Now what I can also do is I can actually check this PO list entity set as well in this. So just copy this part, the last part, and just close this one, which is the standard, and put here for this one, which is your Z implementation now. Okay, the same call, and press enter just to see if it's now giving you the data for all the purchase orders. And yes, you can see, though it's a Z implementation, it's behaving exactly same as your standard OData service. Now as a next step, we will connect this with our with our Z project, which is our enhanced or extended project. Okay, so we will now go back to our Fiori app, and if you really look at the standard OData standard UI, which is there, it's connecting to the standard OData service here. Yeah, you can see this is how it is connecting to standard OData service. But you really got to change this configuration now, and you need to tell the system that I don't want it to connect to standard OData service, but instead of this, I want it to connect to my Z implementation. How do you tell this? So that you have to change the configuration. So just copy all this what you have already over here, the entire JSON. Copy this entire JSON from configuration of standard project and just come to the component JS here, and you see there is this config which you can also override from the config of the parent project. So you have a configuration here, and in this config section whatever you write gets overwritten by what is there in the parent. So now in this config we will mention a property name, and this property will actually be overriding the functionality of the service. So the name of the property is standard. It's called sap.ca.serviceconfigs. Okay, that's the name of the property. Put colon, and then you can have an array symbol, and then in this you got to write curly braces and put the name, and then we can put the name as or basically we can actually put everything what we copied, all the settings what we copied. So we will put it over here. You can see. So you can see here we have put it now. So now we are actually replacing the implementation with Z implementation. So everything remains as it is. Only thing which you're supposed to change is the paths. So if you really look at the path which we have it here is one thing which is supposed to change. So the new path includes this dot ZMM demo purchase order TPO. So that is one part I'm putting here, dot ZMM purchase order TPO. This is the path of the mock data, and then one is this one. So you see here, this is the standard OData service name. Let's replace it with our OData service, which is this one. Let's copy this, come back and put it here. That's it. So now we have successfully connected our Z implementation with our Z OData service. So this is just to make sure that our pieces connect well with each other. Okay, now whatever you do with here, it will connect. So name is just, you know, semantic name. It has nothing to do with actual functionality. Actual functionality is being catered by this part, service URL. This is being used by your OData model to connect to the backend. The name, it doesn't really matter. Name you should not change. You can keep the name same. Okay, keep the name same. So this is just a configuration we are saying. We have adapted the configuration. We basically overridden the functionality. So the parent project has a configuration which is having details of the service. We have overwritten these values with our own service. Now when I run this Z project, it talks to the Z OData service. So let me show you running this and watch the network calls. I think I have saved it. Yes. And let me right click and say run, and run as Fiori app in the sandbox. Press F12 to look at the calls which are going to the backend, guys. See, it's asking me the username password. Okay, so let me enter, and I press F12 to look at all the calls going to the backend. Yes, it has got the data, but are we really sure that it is calling the Z OData service which we have? Let's refresh and check one more time. So I refresh here, and let's see which PO list it is calling. Is it calling the PO list of a standard OData service or the new Z implementation which you created? You can see here the call PO list, and you can see it's actually calling my Z implementation. You can also double click and look at the response. You can see its response is coming from your OData service which you enhanced, so which you overridden. So now your project, UI project, is a Z implementation, and your service also is a Z implementation. Both are Z. So your custom implementation, you have completely decoupled yourself from standard Fiori app. You reused it, everything, whatever is there, and now you're free to do any modification in your backend as well as in the front end. So we will first enhance now this service to display the payment terms data. So right now there is nothing related to payment terms here. We got to enhance this with payment terms. Okay, so you remember we have only few fields, but in database table of the purchase orders we have payment terms also, and this payment terms is not exposed via OData service. So we got to enhance the OData service. That's why we created Z implementation, and by including it here we made sure that what we created and what we registered, it works seamlessly with our Z project. This is step number 1, guys. We didn't really make any change till now, just created a Z implementation of the OData and connected it with Z project. Now in the next step, we are going to make a change to the OData now. Let's go back to the backend system and use this DPC extension class. Let's copy this, come to a notepad and just extract out only this DPC extension class. Let's copy this class name. I'm just gonna go and do the implementation for it. SE24, enter this, click on display, and that's my OData service implementation. We all know about DPC extension class. Now, can anybody tell me which method do I use to enable returning of PO lists? Anybody? Which method do I use to enhance this PO lists entity set? Anybody? You remember our first course, which method do I use to return the data? Get entities, perfect answer. Get entities, I would say get entity set method you should use. So let's look at PO lists get entity set. Here it is, you can see this one I need to change. So if you double click here, you can see it takes you to the parent class, which is the actual SAP delivered implementation where SAP have delivered you the code to return the PO data. Yeah, so SAP have done already some coding here to return the PO data, but this data doesn't return you the payment terms data. Okay, it doesn't return you the payment terms data. It just returns you a pretty small subset. So first of all, you need to enhance the returning structure. So let's double click here, go to the parent class and see what it is returning. It's returning ET entity set and it's of this type. Yeah, it's of this type. Double click here. Okay, I think I double click somewhere else. Double click here and it takes you the type, table type PO list. Go inside, go to TS PO list, and you can see this is a standard data dictionary structure what they've used to return the data for PO list. It's a this thing type. This is a standard data dictionary structure what SAP have used to return the data. So if you look at this in SC11, this is standard structure, you will see the fields. So these are all the fields what exactly your OData service is returning when you are calling get entity set of PO lists. So you can match it. See search text, PO number, PO number, PO number formatted, PO number formatted. So these are all the fields what SAP is returning you when you are calling PO list entity set. This is the standard implementation what they have. So if I want to return more fields, what is that I supposed to do? Anybody? If I want to return more fields for PO list entity set, what is that am I supposed to do to return more fields? Because PO list is only returning this much. If I want more, of course, I need to enhance this standard OData return structure, right? I got to enhance it. So how can I enhance it? You can see there is already an include which SAP have given. This is a standard include, and you can look at the description for this. What it says is customer extensions include. So SAP gives these extension points almost everywhere. So if you look at this structure, just go inside this and here you can add your own fields. This is customer extended. You can really extend it with your own data. Okay, so how can you do it? A standard SAP structure. If you want to enhance, which concept do you use in SAP? ABAP. Any ABAP knowledge? Which concept do you use to enhance standard SAP structures? Anybody? Append structure, perfect answer. Click on this append structure and just give some name. I say Z new PO fields. Something I can give, can say okay, Z new PO fields, and I can say new, or I would say extra fields for service data. And now I can add the components, add the fields which I really like. So let's go back to EP7 and go to EKKO structure and look at the name of the data field which is there for payment terms. Yeah. So for payment terms, you can see here terms of payment key. The field name is Z term and the data type is DZ term. Okay. So I will use the same name, Z term as the field name and DZ term as the data type, so that they don't have a compatibility issue. And I can also use move corresponding in my code to move the data. And DZ term, press enter, you can see terms of primary terms of payment key. Click on save. Local object, you probably do it in a productive package so that you can transport. Okay, everything has to be in a productive package, whether a service change or a structure change, so that you can really transport to your quality in production. Activate it. Done. We have successfully enhanced by using append include to the standard SAP structure. There are some warnings, I ignore them and say go back. You can see now you got a Z term field included into this custom structure, and if you look at the main structure, that has got enhanced. Yeah, this has got enhanced. This is the structure what exactly your type is using for OData service. So if you can come back to your SEGW project once again, which you really created, the Z implementation. So if you just look back again, this project, what was its name? ZSRA PQRS ZSRA 020 was our name. So let me just check, where can I find it? Let me scroll down, look at my project which I created, ZSRA, where it has gone. ZSRA 020. I'm not able to find that. That's my backend. Here only I created, guys. Let me see where it is gone. I think it was ZZSRA. Yeah, you're right, maybe. Let me scroll down till the bottom. Was it ZZSRA? Let me check. We can also look at our OData and the name of it. So let me just quickly find it out from here. So you can see it's only this part excluding underscore SRV. I can look forward for this ZZSRA 020 PO tracking 1. So let me just look forward for this. If I can search, oh, I can't really search. Yeah, here it is. Yes, we found it at the end. And now if I just go back to entity types, I will see the PO item and PO list here, PO list. And if I just look at its properties, I still see the old properties. Though we recently enhanced the structure which is bringing these properties, I still do not see the payment term property here, right? It's not here. So we got to change this. So just go for change. And now right click on the properties, sorry, right click on the entity type and say import properties. Okay, import properties, and now you will see your Z field which you actually enhanced is now available over here. Payment terms field. Click on next, and that's okay. Let it be good, and I just say finish. So now it has become part of your Z service, the new field which you have got introduced, guys. Congratulations, you have enhanced your OData service with a new field. Let's click on save and just do a regenerate. So all the MPC extension and MPC and DPC class gets regenerated according to this. I just say regenerate, and now we got to run this OData service, Z OData service once again in the browser and look at the response. So let's refresh. We should see the new field guys over here. So let me just refresh, and voila, you see guys, Z term, the new custom field which we just included into the structure, and then onto the entity type is available. But where is the data? Yeah, there's no data, no data, right? So any guess how will the data come? Anybody? Absolutely, we got to enhance our DPC extension class for our Z service. So let's go to the DPC extension class. Pretty simple. Expand the runtime artifacts. Where are they? Okay, so they are at the bottom. And now here you have your DPC extension. Just go to the DPC extension, and we got to enhance the get entity set method for this as well. So let's come down. PO lists get entity set. Where is it? Here it is. You can see this is the one. We got to enhance it. So just go for change and do a redefinition. Now guys, remember the golden rule. You should not hamper existing functionality. So if I don't write any code in this and just do an activate, this has a bad side effect. This is a very bad side effect. So now this implementation will be used, and it won't really return you anything at all. So if somebody if you just do this, okay, and you don't write any code inside and you leave it empty, this get entity set to the user, it's going to return empty. So I just refresh, you see nothing is coming, and hence as an impact of this, your Fiori app will also stop working. Indeed, it doesn't stop any, it doesn't show any data. See, there's no data it is showing on the left. So that's a very bad state, guys. You left it, you enhanced the service, of course you connected it also, but later point of time you did something which hampered the standard. So never do this. Be very, very careful when you're redefining your services. Okay, so this is one common mistake with a lot of people does, and because of that, even if these apps will stop working, because it will not stop working as in it doesn't show the data. So never do this. So we should never hamper existing functionality. So for that reason, we already saw the hierarchy what it has created. It is inheriting from DPC class, and that DPC class is inheriting from standard SAP implemented DPC extension, right? So we got to now call the superclass method. We should just say whatever is there in SAP functionality, we want that. So just enable calling the superclass method. So whatever is there in SAP functionality, we just want to use it as it is. This is your first step when you are enhancing a method. And then you just, if you really look at it, the signature really matches to call the superclass method with the child class here. And let me just uncomment everything and just pump exactly these things what I'm getting. So I'm getting all these properties already. I'm just passing it to the superclass so that SAP provided implementation gets called first. So SAP has provided me already in standard implementation, which I want to invoke as it is, whatever SAP gave, I want to invoke that as it is. So let me just do that as it is, and just activate it. So even though you are not sure what to do, and by default you implement it, there are two ways to correct it. Either you roll back your implementation, or if at all you don't want to do that, implement it in this way by calling standard SAP method. So super is the keyword in OOPSABAP to call the parent class method, which is nothing but ultimately your SAP delivered implemented class. So you're just calling it, and if you come back and refresh, you'll start getting the data once again. Yes, it's working. But still your payment terms is not coming. So for this additional field, you can write your enhanced logic now. Okay, for this you can write your enhanced logic. So if you just see, this entity set will really contain all the data. I'm just gonna enhance this with my Z payment terms as well. So let me write a field symbol, a typical ABAP program now. I'm in ABAPer mode. That's my core strength. So field symbol, like line of my entity set, and I'm just gonna loop through these. Don't be afraid of field symbols, guys, they are your friends. So ET entity set, I'm looping, assigning to every record to field symbols. Anybody, any reason why am I using field symbols, not work area? Anybody? Can you guess why am I using field symbols, not the work areas? Anybody? Why am I using? Perfect answer, Ram, because modify will be easier with field symbols. If you are using field symbol is just pointing to the memory into the internal table directly. It is not going to copy the data line by line into work area. Like in work area, it copies the data line by line into the work area, and there you do modification in work area and then post it back to the internal table using modify internal table from work area statement. That is not required at all, because field symbol directly points to row by row into the memory. Okay, so that's why modification becomes easier when you use field symbol. So field symbol, and I'm going to update the payment terms data. So right now I just do some dirty programming. Please excuse me for that, because that's not ideally you should do. You should probably use some business API or some functions to do that. I'm not sure about the application logic of your area. You will be expert into that for your ABAP knowledge, but I just do a dirty programming. So I just do a select single star or select single Z exact field which I want, Z term, from or into my field symbol hyphen Z term from my database table EKKO, where EBELN, which is my purchase order number, is equal to the data in the in the entity set. So purchase order number. So this is a dirty programming. Why? Because I have a select query inside a loop. This is not a good programming practice. I could have also done it in a better way, like select star from table into itab with all keys. Okay, with um, all keys of my selection table. Okay, where condition I could have written. So in this, it would have selected all the data for all entries. Yes, I'm really sorry. For all entries, yes, for all entries in a particular selection table, and then a where condition for that selection table. This would have been a better approach. So this can be used to avoid the looping and selection within the looping. Yeah, but I'm right now, just my purpose is to showcase you that now you can further write in your custom logic. So just in the first step, you are calling the standard logic what SAP gave you as it is. Call the standard SAP logic. And then what you can do is, once you got the data set from SAP logic, you can process the data, you can manipulate the data, the standard data, or uh, select your custom data to provide missing field information, right? That's what we're doing. So we saw that standard implementation doesn't really give me the payment terms data. So I provide my implementation to read this payment terms data from my custom logic, and that's my custom logic. So I just save this. Let's quickly do a check. Hopefully it should be good. Yeah, it's good. Let's activate it, and we just go back and hit the service one more time. So earlier the payment term data was not really coming up. Let me just come and press enter, and voila, you see now it's been populated per purchase order. What is the payment terms? You can see it's really coming up over here. Yeah. Can anybody tell me what is the table name for payment terms? What is the master table for payment terms? Anybody? What is the check table name or the master table name which includes payment terms information? Anybody? No one? Okay, let's find out. Even me too don't know. So let's go and check this out. Go to EKKO and look at this payment terms, go to its data element, and then just go to the domain, come to the value range. Oops, I don't see the value table here, which means I really cannot find it. Maybe we go to the name of the component. No, so I don't think so it will really help. Then how can I check the master table for payment terms? Maybe I can check it with the help of my search help. Yeah, so let me just go here to search help. Oops, I don't have it. So somebody has already posted. I think you have experience with it, so maybe you found out. Okay, they use Z tables. Okay, but I got T052. Let me see if this is the right one. Maybe can help me with some data for payments, so we can enhance, some more things. Yes, I think this seems to be the right table. You can see terms of payment key. So let's try with this key value if it is present, ZB01. Let me see if it is there, ZB01 into this table. This payment term is there or not. ZB01. Let me check if this payment term is available in here. Basically, I need the description, guys, for the payment terms. Yes, it's there, but there is no description given. Or is it given? Yeah, here you can see text one is the description. So I want this description also to be part of the output data along with payment terms. Cool. So let's enhance this. So it's pretty simple. Let's use this text one. Where is it? I don't see it now here. The text one. Where is it? Is I think it was coming from a text table. So I got to probably find its corresponding text table, guys. Yeah. Always text table has the T at the end. So here we will have it. This is a table. It has a language key as well as the actual the ID. So let me try one more time. It's ZB01. Execute it. Oh my God, it's not there. So I got to join these two tables to get that data really. This is difficult. So I have this, and let me look at the relationship between this and text table. So terms of payment has a relationship maybe with its corresponding text table or not. They have a T042Z payment method, payment terms. Okay, I don't really see that. Let me just check, guys. How can I really enhance and get the information? So ZB01, I just go for execute. And here I want this text information, guys, actually. This is the information I'm looking forward for. And let me see how can I derive that from the text table probably, because I don't see it here. So let me just go. So Z term. No. I don't want to get into detail of performance trace. Let me just see if somehow I can use it. So there is a short key and there is a text. So let me just go in and execute. There is no record, guys, in this table, which means this is not the right table providing the information for my payment terms. Okay, it's something else. Yes, it's something else from where it's really getting me the data. But which one? Which one? Let's go and check. So this text one. Okay. Let me check the join condition. If it's having a join, guys, I'm sure we should be able to find it. Okay, yeah. Let me just.
Anubhav, on the back side, you can go and display the what is the text table corresponding to that.
Which backside?
Can you go back to the table definition?
Okay.
Go back. Go to. There should be go to on the top menu. There should be something called text table.
Ah, yeah. Perfect. Thank you so much. So thanks for that information. I really forgot that option now in DDIC. It's been such a long time working with DDICs. So now you got this text table. Thank you so much. And I think now if you pump in this information, your payment term ZB01, and we're gonna get the text value. Yes. So these are all the payment terms information. I don't know. This is again the language key, So maybe we'll go with the default language key. So this is a table we're going to query and get this information. So now I want to enhance it again with this text value. So this is the data type and text one is the type. So let's go back and enhance our OData service one more time with this new field. So it's pretty simple. We all know what we need to do. Just go back to EP7, go to your project, SAPGW, and we know it's at the end. So it's pretty easy, and just expand it, expand the entity type, and now you have PO list. This is our PO list, and now if you just right click and say import, okay, I got to go for change. I of course did not added it, guys, into the list, so that's why I should not be able to do it. So let's go to the structure here and go to the append structure which we created recently and just add this new field text one. Okay, so that also I'm adding the actual text for payment terms for the user. Activate this structure. It may take a while because there are a lot of corresponding structure which probably would be activated, and now we have it both the fields. So let's add it to our service finally. So I think I already opened our service somewhere. Okay, let me just copy the table name, the text table name. I copied it, guys, the text table name, and now I go back to the DPC extension, and here I'm going to add the code for querying the data for this as well, for the text table as well. Yeah, so I'm really sorry, guys. I'm switching the screens quite frequently, but I'm just trying to copy the data properly. So text table, and this is the name, and now I'll write here the code to also update the data. We can all of course we can do the join here to join the data and get the information. This is completely possible, and but I really don't want to do that. Maybe I just say select single the text one from or into my field symbol, and of course my structure will have that field which is newly added. It's text one from the table name where SPRAS, which is the language key, is sci-langu, the current logon language of the user, and also the payment terms value, which is Z term, equals to this field symbol value. Perfect. So that's my code to also update the text value for payment terms. Let's activate this. One last thing which we missed out in SAPGW for our service, we have not really added that field. We have not imported it. Okay, so let me do that import in SAPGW. So go back to SAPGW, and here I'm gonna update the structure, the entity type. So expand it, expand the data model, go to PO list, right click, import. Okay, I'm in not edit mode. Right click, import properties, and let's add text one to the entity type as well. Quickly finish and regenerate everything one more time. After this activity, guys, there's one more thing which you need to do is go to your front-end system and tell the system to refresh the metadata. Okay, this is also a good activity. It will refresh the metadata of the OData service. Just say load metadata. You can see it's loaded successfully. That's it. Come back and now watch carefully. Press enter, and wow, you can see the text one have come. This is the payment term which you have got now along with the payment term key. This makes more sense for the user. When they look at the purchase orders, they will know what was the payment term agreed for this purchase order. Yeah, so this is a really good information which you really want to make it visible on your Fiori UI now. Okay, so now we will see how to enhance our Fiori UI with the custom field and show this field data in the Fiori UI. So right now this is our Fiori UI. If I just refresh one more time, you're gonna get all the data, and now here you see there is nowhere I am displaying the payment terms for purchase orders. I don't really have a place for that. So it's completely new custom field on the Fiori UI we need, which displays you the payment terms information, right? That's what we need. So how can we do it? So let's look back our PPT. So anybody, which option are you going to use if you want to enhance standard view with your custom fields? Which option out of these four options which I discussed yesterday you will probably use to enhance the the screens with extra fields what you like? Which option? View modification. This is probably required when you want to replace the whole view. When you really want to replace the whole view, then this option is useful. Are we replacing the whole view with our view? No, we want minor enhancements. We want to add absolutely. So that's why we will look forward for extensions first. So never go to modification directly. You should first see if the standard view gives you some extension points where you can hook in your own fragment, your own UI. If yes, why do you want to replace the whole view? You don't need to. Okay. If it doesn't give you any feature, any standard enhancement features, of course you would like to replace it completely. So let's look at the documentation also, the Fiori apps library, which also gives me a better understanding of this app. You can see extensibility section, and you can see here they've given all the extension points of the views here in this section. So this is the VSP application name, and this is all the extension points for different views. So you look at the description, it will be really helpful for you to easily find out which view you're supposed to change for what purpose. So if you see here, add fields to purchase order detail header, and it's in the S3 view, and name of extension is details header. Okay, details header. So let's come back and look at it in S3 view, XML view. Details header is the extension name. Do we find it? Let's come back and check. So we come back here to Web IDE, to the standard project, go to the views, S3 view. Here it is. Let's go inside. Do we see any extension point with name details header? Let's see. There's a custom header, content, object header. Here it is. See, an extension point details header. So if you want to enhance the details section, which is this particular section here, right below this IDES pack incorporation, this is object header, and then this icon tab filter. Between these two, this is icon tab filter, this is the object header. Between these two, you have an extension point which will enhance to add more fields as per your need. So this is what we will make use of and add our own small piece of UI which can display some data. So we have already enhanced our OData service, which is capable of displaying this text one, which is nothing but payment terms, and of course this. So Z term and hyphen text one I want to probably display on the screen. Okay, so this extension point I can really use. So what I'm going to do is come back to my Z project, and in this I'm going to create a new folder called my UI, or I can also just name it same as what standard follows, view folder. And in this I'm going to add a fragment, guys. So let's say new, and I just say file, and I say Spider-Man is back. So Spider-Man dot fragment dot XML, guys. So this time we are in this course focusing more on XML based UI. So it's Spider-Man dot fragment dot XML. Click on OK, and now I'm just gonna write some piece of XML code over here. So especially when it comes to XML, it's always a good practice. You can go back to UI5 explored, and from there you can get a reference how a fragment or how something can be really created. So but since I already have knowledge on writing XMLs, it's pretty simple to define a fragment in form of an XML here. So you got to write the namespace, which is core. So core is the namespace for SAP UI core representation, and you got to write fragment definition, and you got to write XML namespace is equals to sap.m. Anything which I do not start with the namespace will be by default coming from SAP M library. Anything which starts with core means SAP UI core. So SAP UI core. So if you see fragment definition, this particular control class or this particular API or control UI control is part of core library. So that's why the namespace is core. Okay, so that's what I've written here. Now anything which you need from sap.m library doesn't really need a prefix. It's just XML namespace. It's just default namespace. Just enter this, and now in this I'm going to write some code. So let me start with the text view. So to control space also you can do, and on the right in the API reference you get an information about this, what exactly this, what are the similar controls and what exactly this control is about. So you can see here it explains you what exactly it does in the API reference. So it's better as compared to Eclipse. Eclipse is a terrible UI5 editor, so this is always better. You can see you get an API reference over here for this particular control. And now just go to text property and I say Spidey is back. Just a hard-coded text. We got to fill this probably later and save this. So I have created a spiderman.fragment.xml file in my view folder of my custom implementation. Don't touch the standard class, the standard project. You should never ever touch, guys. Never ever touch this standard. Everything has to be in your extension, your extended project. Okay. Now coming to the component JS, here we're going to write some customizing. So in this section, we're going to define that we really want to change something. We want to hook in some new functionality, some new UI feature. So you got to tell three things: what kind of changes you're doing, which view is subjected to be changed, and what is the settings for that. Okay, remember, three rule of the game: what changes, what kind of changes you are doing. Okay, point one, which view will affect it, and third option is settings for that change. So what kind of changes we are doing? In this case, we are extending the standard view with an extension point. Which view we are extending? s3.view.xml. And what are all the settings for that, which I will explain you. So let's go back and use this SAP UI view extension as our point of extension. So sap.ui.view extension. I want to extend a view. This is level 1. Level 2, which view you want to extend. So you got to give the complete path of the view, guys. Complete path of the view. So come back and look at your view. Where is it? It's here. Okay. And use the complete path of the view. Basically, you got to use the namespace and the folder name where the view exists. So this is the complete path of the view. You can see this is the complete path. Basically, it's a controller name, but that's also same as the view name. Yeah. That's also same as the view name. So this is the complete path of what you really want to change. Okay, this is the complete path of what you really want to change. So this is the name of the view which you want to change, which is subjected to change. So copy this, come here. This is what I'm changing. And then as obviously we need to tell what exactly we are changing. So we want to, since it's extension, we got to give the name of the extension. So we already saw the name of the extension in the view. So if I go back to the view, I can show you the name of the extension. It's details header is the name of extension. You can also come back to your apps repository and look at there the name of extension. It's details header. H is capital. Be very careful. It's case sensitive. Details header colon, and then you give the settings. So that's how you enhance. That is how you enhance a standard view by your own control. So now we have created a Spider-Man fragment. I'm going to pump in this Spider-Man fragment in this extension point. So whatever you have coded inside this fragment will be displayed in the standard screen. Yeah. So let's put it here. Now you got to give the settings. You need to tell what kind of UI element you want to introduce, What is the name of the UI element you are introducing? What is the type of it? And what is the name of the fragment? So there are three properties. One is class name for implementation. Second property is called the fragment name. And third is the type of the fragment it is. So everything by default, any UI which you're creating now on henceforth will be XML. The class name is SAP UI core fragment. And then the fragment name was the complete path. So this is the namespace we have. This is the namespace, guys, we have. Let's copy this whole namespace. And in this namespace, we have a view folder. In this, we have a Spider-Man fragment, which we created. Yeah, that's the full path. Whatever you have now in this fragment, Spider-Man fragment, will be embedded in the extension point. That's how you enhance standard SAP UI with your own set of controls added into the fragment and fragment added to the point. Save this. Let's come back. Watch this carefully. Press F12. I have introduced intentionally some errors. I will show you what happens when these error comes and how do you solve them. So let's refresh and watch carefully. We should get our text, what we added, in middle of this icon tab filter and this object header, because that's the extension point place and that's where we expect our fragment to come. Yeah, let's refresh and see. Be in the console. And you see it's not really coming up. You can really make out it's the section is not really coming up, and I also don't see any error in the console. Okay, it's not really coming up. So the mistake which I did was in the spelling. So if you really look at here, the class name SAP UI core fragment, the spelling is not correct. It's fragment. And one spelling mistake here also I did. This was unintentional, so let me just rename this. It's not frage, it's just fragment, fragment. Rename this. Cool. Save this. Let's come back and refresh the page. Make sure you're running the Z implementation, not the actual implementation. And I don't think so. It's still not coming, which means probably I may be running the old implementation. Let me run this one. Run as sandbox. So let's see. Still it's not coming. There is some problem. Press F12. Look at this. Is there any problem? Is it unable to find something which is expected to be found? Not really. Let's go back and check. So we did the configuration for connecting to the Z service. It's connecting to Z service, perfect. And then we have given customizing section. In customizing section, we have given SAP UI view extensions. See, I did a mistake, guys. I forgot to put an S here. It is view extensions. It's not view extension. I forgot to put a small s. Save this. Let's check one more time. Refresh the page and see what happens. And voila, you see your custom field which you created, Spidey is back, is now in the middle of your icon tab filter and your object header. Yeah, that's what you really wanted and you got this. Perfect. That's what we really wanted. You can also put your own object header. Let me show you now. Just go back to this fragment. Whatever you put here will be coming over there. So I just put my own object header. You can do control space to look at the documentation for this particular control on the right, the API documentation. Okay, there's some problem. It's not really showing it. No, it's not really showing it. Fine. So we put an object header and now we can put a title equals to wow. Save this. Let's come back, refresh. We should get an object header and a title wow. It's not coming, which means I did a mistake. obj. Okay, there's a spelling mistake. Yeah, typo. Yeah. Save it. Refresh. we should get an object header with the title wow. Yeah, you can see there's a title wow here. You can really see this. Now, I basically, my purpose was not to exactly put a hard-coded text. Instead of that, I really wanted to display the data for selected purchase order. Like you see, when I really select an item here, it's actually changing this data on the top in object header. How it is changing is through element binding. We all learned about element binding in our first course. So whenever you select an item, the selected item gets binded to the view on the right hand side in the details section, and the data corresponding to that gets displayed. And if you really look at this in the standard implementation, let me show you how they have done is if you go to the S3 view once again, you will see they're just binding the properties here: status, PO number. The property is basically coming from PO lists entity set. They are just binding it: number, currency, supplier name, and PO number, status. So if you come here to this, you can see supplier name, PO number, status, currency. These properties, they're directly binding because there's an element binding, and once you select an item, that element binding updates the data on the right hand side. So if you just want to display this text one or the payment terms, just simply pick up this one and put it in your fragment. So just come down to the fragment which you have, and here you just do the binding with that property. You can also do like this, both the things together, z term and then a space, hyphen, and this. Save it. Watch carefully now. You should get, instead of this wow, your payment terms. So let's refresh. Oops, I'm just getting a hyphen. I'm really not getting the complete information, so maybe I think it is only this much I will put, and try one more time. No, it's not displaying anything. There is some problem. So it's coming in here, text text1. Am I doing any typo? No, it is correct. No, length will not cause this problem. Let me just put z term. Let me check the property name, z term t small. Come back, refresh. We should be able to see that information. Okay, let me try just putting the PO number, which is there here anyways in the old metadata also. Maybe it has not refreshed the metadata, could be the problem. Template is not required. It should get the data. Let me just check it, guys. Give me a minute. Let me check. Am I able to see at least PO number? Yes, you can see PO number. The binding is working properly, which means the Fiori app has not taken up the latest metadata of this OData service. Okay, probably that could be the reason. Let me also make sure that it's really making a call to the Z OData service. Okay, just let me make sure that it's really making a call to Z OData service, not to the standard SAP OData service. Just wanted to make sure. Let me check this. Yeah, it's correct. It's making a call to Z OData service, which is our implementation, not the one which is provided standard. So I can actually see Z term and Z text one. I can really see that. That shouldn't be the problem then. What's the problem? Let me check what's the problem. I should get the data, guys. Maybe the metadata did not refresh with Fiori app. Could be the issue, but let's also check the code. Yeah, maybe we can try reloading the metadata. So I can come here, right click on the Fiori app and empty cache and hard reload to just see. Of course, I got to change the binding here back to this payment terms, which will only happen once this refresh completes. I can come here and I just make it Z term. Save it. Should be able to see. Not sure. Ideally it should display the payment terms because that's what the binding does. It's not displaying. There is some problem. I got to check this. Why it is not displaying the data? Let me look at also the code here for this view. So in this view you can see it's just creating the binding with PO number. Whatever is there in PO lists entity set, it's really going to set that. Let's go to its controller. Its controller, where is it? Here it is. So when you are really lending to this controller, there will be a root match handler which gets called, and in that they must be writing this code. So they must be doing this element. You can see here they are doing a bind element slash the path of PO items. That's what exactly they're doing. So they're doing a bind element, which means whatever is there in that particular entity type PO list will be loaded in the child. And then you can read the child properties, basically one single record property, which includes anyways this term and text one, but it's not really displaying it. Maybe we can debug. So I can set up a breakpoint in S3 controller in on init method. So let me just go back, go to sources, and now you got to open the sources. So press Control O here. Control O is the shortcut, and just search for s3.controller.js. And now you got to click on this button at the bottom, pretty print, and it will align everything, and then you can set up a breakpoint in on init method over here. So once you land to a page, or a root match handler gets called, and in this they are doing the bind element for this particular element of the PO lists. But it's PO items, not list. But where exactly they're doing for PO list, replace PO detailed data. Okay, I'm not sure. Are they really doing binding with PO lists? I don't think so. I think they're doing binding with PO detailed data, guys. That's what they're doing. You can see bind element context path. Okay, let's set up a breakpoint and see what they are exactly binding this detail view with. So refresh just to check. So then probably you need to enhance the another part. Click here, pretty printer, and let's see what they are really doing here. So I just use this context path, and you can see they are really doing it PO detailed data, guys. So in this they are passing the purchase order number and they are getting PO detailed data. So they are binding the detailed view with PO detailed data's entity set. And I think that's what it really has inside all the purchase order number and stuff. So let me just check this one. I think this one doesn't have our field. So these are all the fields it has. So this one also doesn't have the payment terms, as you can see. Maybe let me try binding it with this description probably, just to make sure that it's binding the detail section with PO detailed data, not with the PO list items. So if I come to our fragment one more time and just replace it with description and save it and check one more time on a refresh, let's see what happens. No, this one also not working. So maybe I will check this guys offline. Why am I not able to get the data in this? Maybe I just need to do some debugging to check what is the problem. But as you can see that if the binding is proper, it can really display the data. So the concept here is to understand, which is important, is whatever you hook in your own view or own fragment at that particular place, it actually displays that much of information. So if I just replace it back with the purchase order number, we should be able to see the PO number once again over here. Ideally it should have displayed it, but I'm not sure what's the reason. Maybe I need to debug this. Now this is about view enhancements. So you have an existing functionality and you want to hook in your own view to it. So that is the reason we have this view extensions. But what about if I really don't want, let's say, this button, or if I don't want to see this object header at all, such kind of functionalities if I want to do. So here you are actually touching the existing objects. So this is a view which has been built by SAP, and this is a button which has been placed by SAP, and you really want to uh, you know change the behavior of existing view or existing screen. So in such cases you don't really need to add in some more functionality, instead you want to modify something existing. So let's look back our options one more time. So can anybody tell me, if I just want to play around with the properties of existing controls in standard view, which is the option which is more preferable out of these options? Anybody? Which option? Modification? Yes, you're right. So you can see this is used to override certain UI element properties in SAP delivered standard views. So we can use this one to really change the behavior. So let's take this example, and I don't want this whole icon tab, or sorry, this object header, complete object header I want to hide. So how can I do this? I can use view modifications. So let's go back to the view, and it's a standard view. And in this standard view, just find out the ID for the object header control. So anybody, what is the ID of my object header control here? What is the ID of my object header control here? What is the ID for that? I want to hide that particular control. What is the ID for my entire object header? Anyone? It's supplier. You can see here object header, and the ID of this is supplier. So we are going to come back to our component.js in the Z implementation, and then just put comma sap.ui.view. Oops, view is small, modifications, and put curly braces. This is level 1. In the level 2, you need to tell which view will be affected. So that's will be again your S3 view. We will tell in level 2. In level 3, you got to tell which control is affected, and then that's the ID of the control basically, and which property of the control you want to change. So I want to change visible property of that control to false. So this is a control which is part of S3 view, and it's basically a change of view modification. So modify this view where the control ID is this with this property. Save it. We're done. Let's come back. This whole object header will become disappear. So I come back and refresh the page. You should be able to see this, and voila, you see the whole object header got disappeared. So that's how you can do small changes to your apps. So if you have a leave request app, or if you have some certain apps where they don't really want some certain controls to be made read only, enable, disable, the value should be only possible with F4 or stuff like that. All these things you can really control with the help of this option, and you can really make it work, right? So that's how you can really change your feature, change the existing features of a particular app. So you can basically modify whatever you like. So you just have to go and find out the ID of the control, and then accordingly make the changes. Yeah. So you can see if I don't want this table to become a selectable thing, okay, so I can really control that. So there is this type navigation, we can change this, and then it will really not navigate. So you can change the selection mode. There are a lot of things which you can really change. So if I just show you for table, so ID for table control is items. So I come back to my component.js, and again I say, and another modification I want, in the same view, I have a control with ID called this, and for this I want to change the mode property to multi-select. Yeah, save this. Let's come back, refresh the page. So you have a table control for which we change the mode property to multi-select. Oops, I don't think so it's working. Maybe I need to check. Is it really the mode property? I think it's list mode, guys. I'm not sure. I'm really not sure. Is it correct? Change. So what was the property for list modes? Maybe we can go back and check to our UI5 SDK. So I just can come to check SAP UI5 SDK. Yeah, explored is what I'm looking for. So let me go to explored and check how can I change the mode for table control. So just come to table control. Which property can I really use to change the mode? So I can come here, column, go to columns for the table. Want to see, can I really change it, the property? Or maybe I'll search for list control because I want to change the list modes. So search for list control. And do we have anything related to mode of the list? Yes. Okay, maybe I use this one. Let me see. How can I change the mode for the list? So flip here, and now we'll see the mode property. Here it is. It's a mode property and delete mode. Let me try this one, guys, for our example. Mode equals to delete. So come back, and this is the control. Just say mode equals to delete. Save it. Not sure whether it will work, but we can try this. If it displays me the mode for delete. No, it's not displaying my delete icon, which means I did something wrong. I got to just try this one more time by putting the same settings one more time here for this whole view, comma. Again, the same view I'm going to put, comma, curly braces, and here the property, which is the control. What is the property I want to change? And of course, again, the same view I got to put here. It's again a view modification on the same view with items control, which is a table control, and I want to change the mode. Okay, is there any problem? There is any problem, I guess, in the code. Maybe I just remove this. View modifications. And just put it here. Okay, again it's giving me an error here. It's saying that duplicate key is found, so I think it's not allowing me, guys. Let me try last time. I'm not sure why it is behaving like this. So same modifications thing on the same view, comma, ideally it should work. The ID of the control, and then which property, which control, and which property I want to change. It should work. I'm not sure why it's not working. Let me remove the icon tab filter. Maybe try with that. So this is the ID, and I want to make it invisible, the whole icon tab filter. So I can just come visible equals to false. Save it. Save it and refresh. Let's see. Oh, boom, there you go. You can see the whole icon tab filter is gone, but why it's not working for table, I'm not sure. Let me try once more time for the table. So name of the control is items for the table. Yeah, the ID of the table is items. And if I try last time, the mode value to delete, I got to pass this in double quotes. It's not a Boolean value, hence just have to pass it like this. Maybe it may not work for table because there's no delete option coming up here. I'm not sure. It's not really working for table, but yes, it works for normal properties like visible, enable, and disable. So that's how you can really do minor changes. But if you really look at this whole process, it's pretty cumbersome, because if you just saw our past example, I just missed this S at the end and it really did not work. So writing all this logic typically takes a lot of time, and also it's error prone. So you have a strong significant chances of having errors into it. So that's the reason SAP Web IDE has provided an extremely good option called Extensibility pane. So it's part of tools, and you can see extensibility pane option is available. So this pane option can really help you to quickly change the views in a easier way. So now if you open this pane, you can really see the structure of your view. Okay, the structure of your view. So if you really look at, this is the S3 view, and if you expand it, you can see how it is divided, and you can, I think, also select here the extensibility mode, and now you can see it's really highlighting the areas, and you see it has also highlighted the areas where there are extension points. So see details header section, it's highlighting. So this is the mode. When you run it in extensibility mode, you can really edit the things. Okay, just let me go back to the large screen in extensibility mode. Yeah, so now it becomes easier for you to change. So let's say if I just want to change this button, so I can just switch to extensibility mode and highlight this button control. Okay, where exactly this button is, let me check. So these are all the things, and then if you scroll down, you have a footer. Okay, I'm not sure where is the button, and this is your table, you see, and now you have all this table, and you can really mark anything which you really want to extend it. So here you have an option to extend. So let's say I select this footer. Okay, I can't really change the footer. Maybe I choose this button, delivered icon tab filter, and I say extend, and I can easily choose hide this. So this way the code gets generated automatically. So let me show you. Let's say if I go for this is nothing but your supplier supplier header, your icon, this thing header, which we have already hidden, guys, with the code. Maybe I will try this one. I have multiple icon tab filters here: ordered, delivered, invoiced, and paid. So let me choose this paid, and you can see this button paid, and now I can say extend and say hide control. That's it. Click on this, and that's it. What happens is now this control will be hidden. So if I close it and say okay, open extension code, what will happen? If you really see, it has automatically generated this code. See, button paid visible equals to false. So this is the power of extensibility pane, where you have a Fiori application, you really want to change it. You can just open it in the extensibility mode, and then you can quickly select the controls which you have on the screen, and easily make them hide, in visible, invisible, enable, disable. Quite a number of properties which you can really change it quickly. You don't have to worry about writing or typing this whole code. So let me show you once again the whole process. So if I just remove this, wherein I was making the whole icon tab filter invisible. Let me remove this just to show you the capability once again, and save it, and then again go to tools, extensibility pane, and now you'll see your view being loaded. I go for extensibility mode, and you see this icon, this object header here. Select the object header, and now say extend and say hide control. Okay, hide control. Okay, and that's it. Wait for the message to come. Now it's actually generating the code in the background and putting it in your extension project. And you see now it has said application is changed. Would you like to open the extensibility code? I would say yes. And now if you come, you can see it has automatically generated the code for you. View modification code, where it is supposed to hide that particular thing. So whatever we typed in manually gets generated automatically. Yeah. So this is one way by which you can also extend the standard Fiori apps by using extensibility pane. You can quickly go and easily do the graphical based editing of your standard Fiori apps, and according to that it will get adapted. So let me show you again. Go to extensibility mode. Whatever you like, you can select. Same way you can enhance it also. So you see, we already extended this particular exit point. Similarly, there are other views. If you want to expand and look at them, you can really do it. So let me just go inside. I first have to go to preview mode so that I can really navigate inside the item. And now I'm on this screen. So in this screen, I want to change something. So I go to extensibility mode, and suppose my customer want to add new fields here. So I can go for this. Click on this and say extend with the view and fragment. So I can add more fields to it now. So you will see it will ask me a fragment name where I can add more controls. So I say extend, open the extended code. It has automatically created a fragment. It has automatically added the code, and you can see it has automatically created this fragment. And if you come back to your component.js, you will see it has automatically added a code here to enhance the view, which is PO item view, with a new fragment at extension points. And whatever you write here, according to that, your view will be enhanced. So let me just write a small thing here, maybe core icon src equals to SAP hyphen icon colon slash slash action. Just adding a dummy icon into this area. Save it. Let's come back, refresh the page, and when we'll go inside the details, you will see an icon being displayed over there. Okay, it's not navigating. There is a problem I introduced, maybe a syntax error. Have I added the core? Yes, it's there. src, I think it's icon property, not src property. Let me try one more time. Okay, nothing is loading now. Okay, maybe I just add a simple text just to show you guys this capability. Enhancement as a text. Save this, and let's try one more time. So this way you don't have to write manually almost everything. It gets generated automatically. So there is a problem now, completely it's stopped. Let me just try running this one more time. And now I go inside. Why it's not navigating? It's causing some problem. There may be some issue. Okay, we have extended something inside form elements, guys, and it's not a valid aggregation. Because of that, it's giving me this error. So maybe this generated code is what I will really use. Let me use the generated code so that I can show you some extensions by default. Save this. Yeah, so you can see now you really got new fields got added here. See, new fields got added. Purchase requisition. So what was the extension? We have added new fields for label, and we have added a new field here for some fact sheet data, some parts with some formatting is being done. So basically form elements got added in this PO number formatter with some data which is now being displayed here. You can see this purchase requisition is coming twice. So it automatically created the fragment. You can go ahead and enhance your fragment with more input. So that is what extensibility pane does. We will see some more flavors of extensibility pane with some one more example of extensibility of, let's say, a timesheet app in the next unit. So till then, please practice this. Any questions before we close? How to extend a standard Fiori app. We saw end-to-end how to extend, first of all, the OData service, and then we saw extending the UI by adding completely new fragment, and then also changing the properties of existing control. Yeah. So in next chapter we will see last two more options, replacing the controller and replacing the whole view.